It has been 2 weeks and I have sent countless messages to various people. I've had conversations with comic shop owners in California and in Texas, and I believe that I finally have the answer to the mystery surrounding Marvel Secret Wars #1. If you want to know the answer, stay tuned to this video. Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. I believe that I finally have the answer. I've spent a little bit of time doing some research on this, a little obsessively trying to get to the bottom of this mystery surrounding Secret Wars #1, but I believe that I've done it. So I have spent some time sending emails off to folks that are selling comic books, specifically Secret Wars #1 on eBay. I was recently in Texas and had some conversations with a couple of knowledgeable shop owners down there. And I've also continued to do just research on my own into the topic, and I believe that I finally have the answer. And I want to thank a couple of you out there that have actually went into your own boxes, your own collections, and looked at Marvel Secret Wars within your boxes. And many of you have messaged me, posted comments, and even posted a video highlighting the fact that there is indeed a second print of Secret Wars #1. We finally have the answer. And I also have a copy of it sitting right here on the table in front of me. And I'll actually show you the two books side by side in just a moment. But there is indeed a second print of Marvel Secret Wars #1. It was actually printed the exact same year, the same month as the regular version of Secret Wars, the one that has Galactus at the Centerfold in his blue and white costume. So as I mentioned, I actually have these sitting in front of me. I'm actually going to show you the masthead for both books. I want to show you the first page for both books because there are differences in the first pages. And then I'll also show you the centerfold as well. And there are some noticeable differences when you start to look at some of the individual pages, kind of as I've highlighted in some of my previous videos. So let me get the camera set up, and I'm actually going to show you these two books side by side. All right, so now I've set the two books up here side by side, and I want to take a few moments to kind of walk through some of the differences that I see between the two books. The first thing that you may notice as you look at these two books is that the second print, which is on the right, has washed out color versus the first print on the left. I don't think that this is related to the print itself. I think that this is really related to the fact that this particular book was actually exposed to sunlight, whereas this higher grade book on the left wasn't. So for the purpose of this, I think that we should ignore the color differences that we see between the two issues, because I think that that is irrelevant to what we're talking about here in this video. There are, however, two, I think, important things that I want to make note of that are true differences between the two books. Specifically, the first is when you look at Spider-Man in the lower left-hand corner here on the first print, you can actually see he's wearing his standard Spider-Man costume. But on the right, the second print, he is actually in his black costume. That is one of the first noticeable differences that I see between these two books. The second noticeable difference that I see is in the treatment of the price and the issue number in the month of publication. If you look here at the first print, you'll see that those two things are essentially in the shape of an M, which I believe stands for Marvel. And on the left-hand side, you'll see that there's a 75 cents, which is the price for the cover price for the book in the US. Below it is the UK price at 35 pence, and below it is the Canadian price at $1. On the right-hand side of the M, you can see #1 for issue #1, and below it, the month of May, which was the publication date. Now, contrast that to the second print. You can see that it is treated very differently here. The 75 cents United States prices is prominently printed, and below it the first issue, and below that the month of May. But on the right hand side of that box is another box that is the Comic Code of Authority. So you don't see the M, and you don't see the UK nor the Canadian price for this particular book. It is just the US price that's mentioned. So those are the two very noticeable differences that I see between the two books from the front cover, the treatment of the price and the issue number, and also the Spider-Man in the lower left-hand corner. Okay, I've gone ahead and stacked the two books together. The first print run is on the bottom. The second print run is on the top, and there are several noticeable differences that you'll see here as I open up to the very first page. The first thing that I want to make mention of is on the left-hand side, you see two different advertisements on the left-hand side. Again, the first print is on the bottom, second print is on the top. When you look at the right-hand side of the page, you will notice right away that there are some differences in the colors of the thing, for example. If you look at the first print run, you'll see that he is reddish, and looks very similar to Spider-Man's red costume. But in the second print run, where the color has been corrected, you can see that he is his appropriately colored orange, which is very different from Spider-Man's costume. There are also some differences further up the page in the other panels, and the galaxy. There you can see that the colors are better here and corrected versus in the first print run. There are some differences. But further down in the masthead area, you'll notice, if I can position this right, that there are some words here in the second print that don't appear in the first, and it specifically says second print, whereas there is no first print or anything like that that's mentioned in this one on the bottom. Okay, so I've gone ahead and opened the two books up here to the centerfolds, where you will notice that there are some meaningful differences and very noticeable differences on the left side of the page. And all three panels have some differences that you'll notice between them. Starting from the very top panel, you'll notice that on the second print, Galactus is appropriately colored, unlike on the left-hand side where he has a white helmet. In the main center panel, you'll notice, of course, in the first print, he is in his blue and white costume, which again is missing some colors. On the right-hand side, he is his appropriately colored, light purple and dark purple. And then at the very bottom panel, you'll notice that Dr. Doom is, of course, in his green, light green, and steel gray uniform, unlike the reddish, tin uniform that he's wearing here. And then, of course, the other two characters in the left-hand panels are also appropriately colored in the color-corrected second print run versus the first print run. And if you look at the right side of the centerfold, you'll also notice again that there are some differences here. Second print run here on the left, first print run on the right. You can see that there are some noticeable differences in the color treatment of the second print run. So those are just some of the differences that I've noticed as I've worked my way through these two books. Again, the second print is believed to have the color magenta included in the print production, unlike the first print run where the color magenta was actually missing from the entire first print run. So there you have it, a side-by-side comparison of the first print and the second print of Marvel Secret Wars #1. I honestly don't think that there is a big difference in the price between the two books, but this was one of those mysteries that I just had to get to the bottom of. I had to figure it out, and I also had to find a copy of this book so that I could have it in my personal collection. Again, it's not really worth much, but it's just one of those mysteries that I had to solve. So thank you guys for following me in this journey. Thank you for contributing to my knowledge and my understanding around this book. And certainly, if you come across any other mysteries, send them my way. Take care, and thanks a lot.